Some women bring light the moment they walk into a room. Others, the light returns the moment they walk out. Now, don't mistake this for bitterness. It's not. And it's not about blame either. It's about clarity. Because if you've lived long enough, and I know you have, you've seen it with your own eyes. Not every smile is sincere. Not every warm touch comes with warmth behind it. And not every woman who enters your life is meant to stay. Life's too short to hand your time, your energy, your peace over to women who drain you, confuse you, or leave you questioning your worth. Especially the ones who wear charm like armor, beauty like bait, and social grace like a mask. You don't need resentment. You need recognition. So, in today's session, we'll uncover 7 quiet but deadly signs of a woman who does more harm than good. Traits that don't always scream, but always take something from you. This isn't about judging others. It's about protecting yourself, about knowing who deserves your presence and who only wants your attention. As Marcus Aurelius once said, the happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. I'd add, it also depends on the people you keep close. Let's sharpen that clarity. Let's begin. Sign 1, she's always the victim. The first sign is subtle at first, but by the time you notice it clearly, it's already draining you. She's always the victim. And I don't mean occasionally, I mean always. No matter the story, no matter the timeline, she's never at fault. You sit across from her in those early days, listening as she opens up. You think she's being vulnerable, maybe even brave. She tells you how her last relationship ended. He cheated, he lied, he wasn't man enough to handle a real woman. Her old boss, jealous, her friends, fake, her family against her since childhood. Everyone in every chapter plays the villain. And she's just the misunderstood survivor. The one who keeps getting hurt despite having the biggest heart. It draws you in. You think, maybe she just needs someone who won't let her down, someone solid, someone like me. That's the hook, and it's powerful, because most men are wired to protect, to fix. And in those early days, that's exactly what you try to do. You show her patience, comfort, reassurance. You make space for her past pain. But what you don't see yet is this: the pain isn't the past, it's her identity. And that's where things start to shift, because as time goes on, the stories don't change. They multiply. Every week, there's a new villain, a new betrayal. And when you offer a different point of view, even gently, you'll feel the change in the room. The silence, the coldness, the subtle shift where you're no longer the comfort, you're the threat. And suddenly, without realizing how it happened, you're cast in the same script as all the men before you. You're not supportive enough, you're not patient enough, you're just like the rest. I knew a man named Tom, solid, grounded, fresh out of a painful divorce, but steady on his feet. He met a woman who seemed different. She opened up right away about the lies, the hurt, the people who never truly saw her. He thought, she just needs a safe place. I can be that. At first things were good. He listened. She leaned on him. But weeks turned into months and the same stories repeated. And every time he asked a question just to understand, he was met with tears, silence, or guilt. One night, after suggesting maybe she had some patterns worth looking at, she said something that hit him cold. "Wow, I thought you were different." That's the moment it clicked. He wasn't with someone who wanted healing. He was with someone who needed to keep being hurt because it gave her power. A woman who's always the victim isn't seeking growth. She's seeking control. And she gets it through sympathy, guilt, and eventually manipulation. She won't take ownership, because if she did, she'd have to change. And change is hard. Playing the victim is easier. The Stoics taught that while you can't control others, you must control your own mind. Marcus Aurelius wrote, You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. But a woman who clings to victimhood refuses that power. She gives it away, then blames the world when things fall apart. And if you stay close to her, you'll start doing the same. You'll stop trusting your judgment. You'll explain yourself more than you should. You'll feel like you're always one step away from being the next bad guy in a story. So what do? You don't attack. You don't try to prove her wrong. You observe. You listen. And you notice if the pattern ever changes. Because if it never does, if she's never part of the problem in any story, then you already know how yours ends. A Stoic man offers compassion, but he doesn't abandon his reason. He can hold space for someone's past without letting it become the weight that buries his future. Kindness is noble, but self-sacrifice in the name of someone else's unhealed story. That's not love. That's self-neglect. And a man who respects his peace knows when to walk away from someone who only knows how to suffer and never how to grow. 2. She's addicted to drama. You don't always see it right away. In the beginning, it can feel like passion, like energy. She's expressive, emotional, intense, and part of you is drawn to that. It's exciting, alive, but over time, you start to notice something else beneath the surface. Peace makes her restless. Calm makes her uncomfortable. She doesn't know how to live without tension, so if it's not there, she creates it. A missed text becomes a silent treatment. A quiet evening turns into an argument. You catch her staring at you differently, like she's looking for something to be upset about. It never stays quiet for long. At first, the drama shows up in small ways, a sharp tone over something trivial, an exaggerated reaction to a misunderstanding, and you chalk it up to her being emotional or just having a bad day. But those days start stacking up, and eventually you realize there's a pattern. She doesn't just react to chaos, she needs it, because drama does something for her. It gives her control. It makes her the center of gravity. While everyone else is thrown off balance, she gets to decide how the emotional weather will turn. It keeps the attention on her, the energy around her, the narrative focused on her feelings. The truth is, some people are addicted to emotional intensity the way others are addicted to adrenaline. And the more you give her stability, the more she pushes back. She'll test boundaries, stir conflict, create problems where there were none, not because she wants resolution, but because resolution ends the spotlight. Seneca said, "An angry man opens his mouth and shuts his eyes." And this applies here. A person addicted to drama isn't listening. She's not looking for truth. She's reacting from impulse. Emotion has become the compass, and reason has been thrown overboard. And if you're not careful, you'll fall into the rhythm. You'll start playing the part without realizing it. You'll find yourself over-explaining, apologizing for things you didn't do, trying to fix situations you never caused. And over time, you stop feeling steady. You start feeling anxious, confused, off balance. That's what drama does. It pulls you out of your center. And when a man loses his center, he loses his power. The Stoic path is different. A Stoic doesn't chase fire. He doesn't meet chaos with more chaos. He stands still. He observes. And when someone pulls him into emotional battles that serve no purpose, he steps back, not to punish, but to protect. You're not here to be someone's emotional punching bag. You're not here to prove that you can handle her. You're here to build peace, not survive storms. So when the drama keeps coming, unprovoked and unresolved, you don't argue. You don't play along. You create space, emotional space, mental space, maybe even physical space if needed. Because some storms aren't meant to be weathered. Some are meant to be avoided entirely. 3, she controls through guilt. Some women don't use their voice to control you. They use your conscience. They don't yell, they don't demand, they don't need to. Instead, they shape your behavior with silence, with sighs, with carefully timed withdrawal. At first, it doesn't even feel like manipulation. You just notice that she gets upset when you focus on work, or that her mood shifts when you mention spending time with friends. She doesn't say anything directly, but you feel it. The tension, the disappointment, that lingering sense that somehow you let her down. So you adjust, you cancel plans, you explain yourself more, you make sure to soften your tone, to check in more often, to avoid anything that might set her off. And the more you adjust, the more she tightens the leash. That's the power of guilt. It doesn't force you, it conditions you. And before you know it, you're no longer acting out of your own values. You're reacting to avoid discomfort, not yours, hers. She'll never say you're wrong, but she'll make you feel like you are. She'll never demand control, but she'll make you hand it over willingly. You'll start reshaping your life around her emotional reactions, not your own principles, and you won't even notice it happening until the weight sets in. That slow, sinking pressure, the voice in your head that asks, "Am I doing enough?" Even when you've already given more than you should. You start making decisions out of fear. Fear of hurting her feelings, fear of conflict, fear of being seen as the bad guy. But guilt, when used like this, is not love. It's leverage, and the more you pay, the more is expected. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." When guilt is guiding your choices, you're no longer the master, you're the puppet. And the strings aren't tied to logic. They're tied to emotion, carefully pulled by someone who knows exactly how to get what she wants. A stoic man sees the pattern. He doesn't need to raise his voice or fight back. He simply stops handing over his freedom in exchange for emotional approval. He acts from reason, not reaction, from clarity, not guilt. You can offer kindness, support, and love, but only when it's a choice, not when it's a defense mechanism. You are not responsible for managing someone else's emotions, especially when they're being used as tools of control. So when the guilt shows up in the form of silence, withdrawal, or disappointment, don't fold. Stand firm. Stay steady. Remember who you are and why you do what you do. Because the man who leads with values doesn't live on guilt. He lives on purpose. 4. She lacks empathy. You won't notice this one when things are going well. You'll notice it when life gets heavy, when you're worn down, when the mask slips, when you need someone to just be there. That's when the truth shows up. That's when you find out what kind of woman you're really dealing with. A woman who lacks empathy may seem supportive on the surface, smiles at the right time, nods when expected, but when you really need her, something's missing. Her attention drifts, her tone sharpens, her presence feels distant. You open up about your stress, your loss, your doubt, and instead of leaning in, she pivots the conversation. Back to herself, back to something safer, something easier. Empathy isn't about having the perfect response. It's not about fixing things. It's about presence, being there, feeling with you, not just hearing you. And when that's missing, you'll feel a very specific kind of loneliness, the kind that sits next to you and still feels miles away. A man I respect once told me about a woman he dated after losing someone close. She was beautiful, intelligent, seemed grounded, but when the grief came, when he really needed someone who could hold space, she became uncomfortable, dismissive. She offered cliches instead of care, changed the subject, left him feeling more alone with her than he ever did by himself. That's what a lack of empathy does. It doesn't hurt loudly, it hurts quietly. It makes you question your needs, makes you shrink them down so you don't feel like a burden. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." But here's the truth behind that wisdom. You can be that man and still feel hollow if the woman beside you can't meet you where you are. Empathy isn't something you can teach. It can't be begged for, bargained for, or trained into someone. If she doesn't have the heart to sit with you when life is heavy, she won't have the strength to walk beside you when it truly matters. A stoic man doesn't chase emotional support from someone who has no capacity for it. He doesn't stay in spaces where he has to explain why his pain matters. He doesn't plead for understanding. He sees what's real and he chooses accordingly. Because when life hits, and it will, you need someone whose presence brings calm, not distance. Someone who doesn't just stand nearby, but stands with you. If she can't do that, don't stay and suffer in silence. Walk away, not with bitterness, but with respect for yourself, because your pain is real, and it deserves to be met with something more than indifference. 5. She worships the superficial. At first it looks harmless. She likes the finer things: shoes with a name, dinners with a view, photos with perfect lighting. She talks about travel, status, success. And you think, what's the harm? Everyone enjoys the good life now and then. But give it time, and you'll see it's not just about taste, it's about identity. Her sense of self is built entirely on what can be seen, measured, shown off. Her value comes from things that shine on the outside, not what holds weight on the inside. You'll notice it in subtle ways. She's more excited by compliments than conversations. She talks about your job, not your character. She notices the brand of your watch, but not the tone of your voice. And when you try to talk about deeper things, values, principles, legacy, she nods politely and changes the subject. To her, life is a display, a performance, and you're either helping her elevate it or you're holding her back. At first, it may not bother you. You might even feel proud, being with someone who attracts attention. But slowly, something starts to feel off. You begin to realize you're not a partner. You're a product, a box to be checked, another accessory in a highlight reel. You'll feel it when she compares your life to others, when she pressures you to upgrade, to impress, to keep up. Not because it adds value, but because it adds image. And the moment you stop feeding that image, the appreciation fades. The Stoics warned us about this kind of hunger. Epictetus said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. But a woman trapped in the world of appearance is never full. No matter how much she has, it's not enough. There's always someone with more. And that becomes the next target. You'll find yourself trying to meet ever-moving expectations, working harder, giving more. But the peace you're looking for, it never comes. Because peace doesn't exist where contentment is absent. And here's the truth. If a woman can't value the parts of you that can't be seen, the discipline, the resilience, the integrity, then she'll never truly respect the man you are. She'll only admire what you provide. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that externals, status, wealth, applause, are nothing but distractions if they pull us away from virtue. A Stoic man knows this. He doesn't judge someone for wanting nice things, but he pays close attention to why they want them. And when he sees that desire is rooted in insecurity, in comparison, in constant craving, he steps back, not out of arrogance, but out of wisdom. Because a man who's building a meaningful life knows that depth can't grow in shallow soil, and no matter how beautiful the surface, a hollow heart can never offer lasting peace. 6. She can't admit she's wrong. You'll see it in moments that start small, a minor disagreement, a misunderstanding, something simple, something that should be easy to talk through, but instead of resolution, you get resistance. She doubles down, deflects, rewrites the moment so that somehow she's right and you're wrong. You bring reason, she brings emotion. You bring facts, she brings feelings. And just like that, the conversation isn't about the issue anymore. It's about your tone, or how you made her feel, or how you always do this. What could have been solved with a sentence turns into a spiral, and no matter how patient you are, how calmly you explain, she doesn't hear it. Because she's not listening for truth, she's protecting her image. To her, being wrong is a threat, a weakness, something to be avoided at all costs, even if it costs the relationship. But first, you might mistake it for stubbornness or pride. But it runs deeper. This is a fear of accountability, one that turns every correction into an attack. And when that fear takes over, growth becomes impossible. You'll start to feel it slowly, that exhaustion, that weight, always having to be the level-headed one, always walking her through logic she refuses to accept. And every time you try to bring something real to the surface, you're met with defensiveness, deflection, or emotional shutdown. You'll start apologizing just to keep the peace, not because you were wrong, but because you were tired. But that peace doesn't last, because the truth, when buried, always returns. And every time you silence yourself just to keep things calm, you chip away at your own clarity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If anyone can refute me, show me I'm making a mistake, I'll gladly change. It's the truth I'm after." That's the posture of strength, humility, wisdom. But when you're with someone who sees correction as criticism, there's no space for that kind of wisdom to exist. Instead, the relationship becomes about survival. Not growth, not connection, just keeping things from falling apart. And here's the cost. When one person in a relationship refuses to own their part, the other ends up carrying it for both. And that's not love. That's imbalance. A Stoic man doesn't seek perfection, but he does require accountability. He's willing to admit when he's wrong, and he expects the same from the one beside him. Not because he needs to win, but because he needs to trust that truth can live in the relationship. If she can't say, "I was wrong," she's not protecting you, she's protecting her pride. And a relationship built around ego will always collapse under the weight of its own denial. So don't ignore the pattern. Don't keep shrinking to keep things smooth. You weren't made to be the emotional cushion for someone else's fear of being human. The ability to admit fault isn't weakness. It's one of the highest forms of strength. And if she doesn't have it, your only real option is to move forward without her. 7. She disrespects your time. Of all the resources a man has, money, energy, even health, time is the one he never gets back. That's why when a woman treats your time like it's disposable, it's not just a small flaw, it's a red flag. A quiet warning that grows louder the longer you ignore it. It starts in subtle ways. She's late, not once, but often. She cancels plans at the last minute with vague reasons. She forgets important dates, shows up unprepared, or changes schedules without a second thought. And every time you give her the benefit of the doubt. At first you call it flexibility. You tell yourself she's just busy, just overwhelmed. You don't want to seem rigid. You don't want to start fights over something that isn't a big deal. But it is a big deal, because time is life. And when someone disrespects your time, what they're really showing you is how little they value your life. I once knew a man, Richard, a builder, disciplined, respected, never late for anything in his life. He started seeing a woman who had all the charm in the world, but no respect for time. She'd show up late without apology, cancel at the last moment, and when she was there, she was often distracted, half present. Over time, he started rearranging his life around her, skipping meetings, delaying work, putting off his routines, just to accommodate her chaos. One afternoon, after waiting alone at a restaurant for nearly an hour, he looked up from his phone and said, "I feel like I'm always waiting." That's what time theft feels like. It's not loud, it's not cruel, it's slow erosion, one small sacrifice after another, until you realize you've built your schedule, your peace, your life, around someone who can't even show up when they say they will. Seneca warned us, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. And no man wastes more of it than the one who hands his hours to someone who treats them carelessly. The Stoic man doesn't rage, he doesn't argue, he simply recalibrates. He knows that time is the only currency he can't earn back, and he gives it to those who treat it with the same respect he does. So when you notice the pattern, chronic lateness, broken plans, the feeling that you're always last on the list, don't excuse it, don't explain it away. Recognize it for what it is, a reflection of priority. Because the woman who values your presence will value your time. She'll protect it, honor it. And if she doesn't, you don't punish her. You don't plead. You simply stop offering what isn't appreciated. Your time is your life. And a Stoic man knows you don't give either away to someone who can't be trusted with them. Now you've seen the signs, not to judge, not to blame, but to understand, because clarity is power, and the man who lacks it will give his time, his peace, even his identity to the wrong woman for far too long. These signs aren't always loud. They don't always show up like red flags. Sometimes they come disguised as beauty, charm, or even vulnerability. That's why you have to watch closely, not just how she talks, but how she treats your energy, your time, your mind. A woman who constantly plays the victim will make you feel responsible for her healing. One addicted to drama will pull you into storms that never end. One who uses guilt will shape your life without saying a word. The one without empathy will make you feel more alone beside her than when you're by yourself. The woman who worships the superficial will never be satisfied. The one who can't admit she's wrong will drain your sanity in slow, quiet ways. And the one who disrespects your time, she'll steal years from you, one wasted hour at a time. Marcus Aurelius said, "The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts." But just as importantly, it depends on the people you allow into those thoughts, who you give your time to, who you let shape your peace. You don't need anger to walk away from the wrong woman. You don't need revenge. You need reason. You need standards that are rooted in values, not loneliness. Stoicism doesn't teach you to hate. It teaches you to discern, to see what weakens you, and to step away without bitterness, without noise, just quiet strength. The goal is not perfection in others, it's peace in yourself, and sometimes that peace begins the moment you stop explaining yourself to someone who was never listening. So protect it, guard your energy, respect your time, and remember, the woman who truly belongs in your life will never make you question your worth, your clarity, or your freedom. A Stoic man doesn't just avoid chaos, he builds a life that chaos can't reach.